Hey, what's up, everyone? It's Trey with the Social Work Come Up. And today I have with me a guest who has passed who passed the social work clinical licensure on the first try. And so I have with me Kira. And so, Kira, if you don't mind sharing with the audience a little bit about your background.
Okay. So hi, hello everyone. I am based in California. I went to Delaware State University for my master's in social work. Graduated in 2016. My background is in forensic, so I have worked in the jails, prisons. I've also worked with women coming out of jail and reintegrating them back into the community. So I worked in Delaware at the prison in Smyrna. I am now in California. I have worked for LA County Department of Mental Health, and now I'm in the private sector. So I have my own practice called Mindfully Healing Therapeutic Practice, and I do teletherapy for adults.
Wow, wow. Very impressive. And so the topic that we are going to discuss is, clinical licensure and passing the exam on the first time.
Mhm.
So in 2022, the ASWB for the first time released their pass rate data, and the data revealed that Black people or
Mm.
Black social workers, those who English isn't their first language, and older folks failed the exam the first time higher than any other group of folks. And so, unlike that demographic, you passed on the first try.
Mhm.
Tell me
Yes.
a little bit about that. And so, what was your study structure about, or how did that look?
So California is known for being the toughest to kind of pass licensure. So I've heard of that from other fellow social workers that I worked with. So I just knew, for me, I didn't want that to be my story. I was going to do what I needed to do to be able to pass. Because one, I didn't want to pay for this exam again to
Yes.
have to try it again. So I just talked to a bunch of people and see what was the common thing that they used. What was the thing that they did that helped them to pass? I know a couple of people that passed on their first try. So that's who I mostly talked to because that was my goal, right? And so I was just kind of learning what was their strategy, what are the tools that they use, how did they structure their time to be able to
Mhm.
pass. And for me, what I knew how I study, I'm not a person that wants to. I want to know how to apply it because that's what the exam is about. It's about how
Sure.
to apply the skills. I didn't want to just study to just study. It was to me exciting per se
Mhm.
kind of study. This is something that I'm learning, something that I can apply. So that was kind of like my thinking going into it. Um, but really, it was just talking to people and getting a foundation of what worked for people that passed their first time and how can I use those things to help me pass my first time. That's kind of where I in California, you have to pay the law, you have to pass the law and ethics exam, and then you get an ACSW number. And that is where you gain your hours. So once you
Mm.
pass law and ethics, which they say is the toughest test, I passed that one my first time as well.
Yes, I love
so so
that.
that kind of was like, okay, everyone's like, that's actually the toughest one in the clinical. So I passed that one. And then you get your ACSW number and then you get your hours. That's when you start to gain your hours to be able to take the clinical exam, which was totally different than Delaware because Delaware doesn't have
Yeah,
that. So
yeah.
I did not know that. I was like, I have my master's. Here we are, California. What are we doing? And I was like, an ACSW number? Like, what do you mean?
What's that?
So I had to kind of learn that process. And then once I passed the law and ethics, you don't have to take it again. I just started getting my hours and we kind of went from there. And then just talking to people who passed the first time and getting some of those details. And I'll go in more in that and what the resources I used.
Okay, okay. So tell me this, how long did you prepare?
Oh, how long did I prepare? I would say mm, mm, so there's a program that I use. I mean, I could tell you now if
Sure, let's just go with it. Yes.
so I use what is called Therapist Development Center. Everyone that I talk to
I did
use
too. Yes.
right? And everyone that used this program passed their first time. That I actually used it for my law and ethics exam too. And so it is structured. How long it took me was how long for me to get through the program. So I don't know
Yeah,
how long that was, but that's what I love about Therapist Development Center is the way that it breaks it down and it gives you for each section, it gives you how long it's going to take for that section. So I don't know how long I study for it, but I did it as long as it took me to complete the program.
I hear you. I hear you. And it's funny that you say that you utilize that program because I've been interviewing people for the last 2 weeks and I've not heard anyone say it. And so I didn't bring it up, but I utilize it too and I swear by it. And so in my personal life, and I'm like, that
Yes.
is, I swear by it. I went
Yes.
in there and, and she said, take a banana in there. I'm like, okay, I'm going to take a banana in
In
there.
my head, she was and then she even gives you what number question it was, but she was like, take a break at this number. I took a break.
Yes, yes,
She was
yes.
literally in my head throughout the whole exam.
Absolutely. I know that I would not have passed that exam if I did not use that program because when I did take it, I was in that category of people that statistically don't pass. And so I was over 40 and
Mm,
I'm Black. And so, had it not been for the Therapist Development Center, I
yes.
wouldn't have my clinical licensure.
Neither. Yes. I tell
Wow.
everyone it was worth the money. It was in the investment. And again, I think how it's what makes the Therapist Development Center so cool is how it's structured, right? It's not like you're trying to learn the information just to
Mm-hmm.
memorize it, but the
Yeah.
way that it's broken down and it's just like you know this information. I felt like it gave me confidence. Like
Yeah.
you know the information. It's just what are they actually asking you? What are they
Yes.
asking you, right? So I loved it actually. I love the program. It didn't feel like studying for me.
Yes.
It really didn't feel
Yes.
like studying for me. And I think that is the biggest thing I think is the difference between other study materials and why and I can't speak for everyone's situation, but when you feel like, oh, I gotta study, or this is daunting, or like that impacts the way you perceive the test,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And how you perceive the test has a direct impact on how you perform. So I think
Absolutely.
with Therapist Development Center, it changes your perspective of how you even see that exam. It's not something you need to be scared of. It's not something that is unattainable.
I
It
agree with
makes
you.
you feel like you got this. You can do this. You can do this.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes. I love that. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. So, a couple of episodes back, I interviewed some folks, and actually, in two different episodes, the people being interviewed said that they were told to think like a middle aged white woman.
Mm.
What's your thoughts on that? Do you feel like you had to think like someone else?
I feel like what I was taught in school didn't it how can I put this? I feel that how I practice social work in the field is not how I needed to answer,
Yeah.
how I needed to
Yeah.
take the exam.
Yes. Yes.
I think the exam you had to really think about I wouldn't say like a white middle age one, but I think you had to do the opposite of what you would actually do
Absolutely. Yes.
in real time than what the exam. The exam is very structured. It's not about the whole person as we're taught when we are practicing social work, right? The environment impacts the person.
Yeah.
No, it's like it's ABC or like there is a correct answer, right? So
Yes.
I think that I would say that it's not culturally. I don't think it's culturally designed at all. I can understand why someone would feel like you need to see it as a white middle age
Hmm.
person. I can completely
Yes.
understand and agree with that. It's not structured for someone who English is their second language, someone who is black like us, where, come on, let's be honest. As black social workers, we practice differently. We
Yes.
we are
Yes.
different. We are different in
Yes.
our practice. And everyone knows that. That's why we're seeked out. I want a black therapist. I want a black social,
Yep. Oh
right?
yeah.
There's a reason, right? And I don't think that the exam allows us to be truly who we are as social workers. I think you have to adapt, and I don't think it was designed to be culturally proficient at all.
I wholeheartedly agree with you when you say we have to adapt. In my mind, I have a certain way that I practice social work, but when I went into that exam, I had to leave that at the door. You know
Yes.
what I mean? Because
Yes.
if we truly are meeting people where they are,
Mhm.
the way that we answer that exam
No.
wouldn't be accurate. And so we
No.
have to adapt. And
Yes.
I like that, which leads me to another question. You answered it a little bit. You said it was absolutely worth the investment.
Yes.
Um, would you? I'm not going to ask that question. I'll save that for offline. But I will say this: when you entered your MSW program,
Mhm.
did you know that licensure was something that you were going to seek?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. Yeah, because I always wanted to be a therapist, and I knew that I wanted to be more clinical going into social work. So I knew I wanted to be licensed. I was aware of having to be licensed. That's something I was always, my aunt was licensed in New York, so I knew it's something that you had to be, and I knew it's something that I wanted to do. Um but I would say, I feel like, and this is the feedback that I gave when I graduated Dell State, I feel that it's not clinically sound. They I was told before, I don't know if it was a couple years before I got into the program, but they used to have sectors. So um there was the clinical, there was the macro,
Yeah.
I forget what the other ones were, but then they made it all general practice. Is where my program was, and I don't feel as if it really prepared you for the clinical exam. um, I think Dell State needs to do a better job, and I don't know if it's HBCUs in general that is that way, but I think it does need to do a better job of making it more clinical. At least giving people who wants to go that route the best, putting them in the best position and the confidence, right, to be
Yeah.
able to
Yeah.
take that license exam. And it's not something that was really discussed in the program post masters, post
Yeah.
what does that look like for you? So I think that's something that definitely needs to be improved for sure.
That's really good feedback. What I did as part of trying to figure this project out, I went to the website of the ASWB, and what I did is I pulled the pass rate
Mm,
for certain PWIs, and for those out there listening, that's predominantly white institutions. And I pulled data for the pass rate for historically black colleges and universities, HBCUs. And I
mhm,
did it in the tri state area. So I looked at Pennsylvania, I looked at New Jersey, Delaware. I actually did DC and Maryland too.
mhm,
And I was so surprised at the large gap in
mm,
pass rate. And so when I looked at the HBCUs in the area, none of them exceeded 60%, a 60% pass rate.
wow,
None of them.
wow.
And so to your point, there's something that is missing. There's an ingredient that's missing. One of my colleagues, she attended a PWI, and so I kicked this topic to her, and she was like, when I went into my program, she was like, I knew that I wanted clinical licensure, and so on day one, that's what they talked about, and
Mm,
I was like, wow. And so there's something missing, and I'm hoping with this project,
mhm,
it gets into the hands of people to figure out, what the ingredient
yeah,
is that's missing from HBCUs. Like there is not, I can't think of a good reason why the gap is
yeah,
so large, right? The
yes,
ASWB, they had some folks doing research, and they pointed out, many factors, but we have to address the elephant in the room.
mm,
And that's the education and training piece.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. And I think I only had one, maybe one professor that had a clinical background. So mostly my professors was the research background,
Mm,
right? There wasn't a lot of, my professors that had that clinical component. So I think having a variety of professors that have that background, but I think also having let people choose which interest that they want to go into, because I had colleagues who did not want to go. They knew they did not want to go clinical. They had no interest in taking the clinical exam. I have a client that's in politics, so wanted to do kind of the macro work of
yeah.
social work. So I think you have to have a space for everyone, right? And I don't think
Yes.
in general practice, you're kind of minimizing people's abilities and
Yeah.
kind of what they can do outside and beyond grad school.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I appreciate that perspective. Going back to the exam, and I asked you how much time did you study, but how did you manage your time? Did you say in your mind, I'm going to block off 6 months and I'm going to just, study aggressively?
Mhm.
Did you study for, say, 2 hours a day? What did that look like? Your management of your time.
So with the Therapist Development Center, it breaks down. I think I actually still have my binder still to this day. Each module, right? So I would take a module and I would pull it on my calendar. Like, I'm going to complete this module this weekend. I'm going to complete it. It was usually on the weekends. But the other thing about Therapist Development Center that's cool is recordings. So you can listen, right? So
Yeah.
I would always listen on my drive to work. I would always listen on my drive back home. Um,
Yes.
I'm at the gym. I would listen. So, because to me, you need to hear information multiple times, right? And you need to hear it in different forms.
Yeah.
Love about Therapist Development Center because it gave the information in multiple ways, right? And made it very accessible. But I would say mainly on the weekends, I just opened up my calendar and I plugged in what modules I wanted to complete.
Okay.
And I knew that I wanted to take my exam. When did I get my hours? I know I wanted to take it within 6 months. I didn't want to go beyond 6 months.
Yes.
And so I just pulled out my calendar and I'm like, okay, what do we we plug in these modules, we're locking it. And also had the support. He's my husband now, but was my boyfriend at the time. He would make sure, like, oh, you had this on the
Yes.
calendar.
Yes. Yes.
Get you some snacks, you're gonna go in the office and you're gonna lock in. And I'm like,
I
okay.
love that. I love that. We talked about support the other night, and so I like that. So you had
Yes.
some
I
family
had
support
support.
also.
Yes, because he knew how important it was to me and the reason why I wanted to become licensed because I wanted to go into the private sector. Working for the county, a lot of bureaucracy, a lot of stress, and I just knew getting my license would just open up the door for me
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
give me that better quality, that work life balance. So he knew how important that was for me to have. So
I love that. So the Therapist Development Center, good support. What
yes.
else? Is there anything else that contributed to your success?
I think I didn't let it overcome my life. Like, I still have fun.
Yeah.
It wasn't study, 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 study. Like, I broke it up. And I think with Development Center, it allow you to do that. It didn't consume my life. So again, I didn't see studying as something that was daunting or something that I had to do. Like,
Hmm.
it's something that, no, I'm kind of looking forward. I'm learning, this information. It's exciting,
Yes.
and the way that she just does it and the way that the program is designed, it didn't feel like I still had a balance. It wasn't, I could still have fun, but still make sure that I took care of my business when it comes to preparing for the exam.
Gotcha. If there's anything that you could have done differently, what would that be?
That I could have done differently. Huh. I don't know if I would have done anything different, honestly.
That's fair. Yeah, that's
I
fair.
don't know if I would have done anything different. No, no. Mm.
That's fair. That's fair enough. Um, and my final question that I have for you, and I've been asking all of my guests this. So, what is one piece of advice that you would give to social workers who are preparing to take the exam for the first time?
I would say change your relationship to the exam. So, how you perceive the exam. Because I think if you see it as something that is going to be so difficult, so hard, I've heard so many people that's failed, right? That's all going to contribute to your own psyche and how you view the exam. You are a master level individual. Master is the key in that word. You have to trust your ability, knowing that you know this information and that this test is going to be no different than the test that you have taken in grad school. Okay. This does not define you, and have fun with it. Don't make studying something that is so daunting, something that's so boring, something that, oh, this is just another thing I have to do. Like, really understand that this is something that is attainable. And that you can do this, and you have to find the studying that works for you, but you also have to be committed. But again, change your perspective of how you view the exam. It doesn't have to be a monster. It doesn't have to be something that's scary. It doesn't have to be something that is unattainable because you've known so many people that didn't pass.
Yeah.
Define it for yourself. And what is it your story going to be when it comes to taking the exam? Because that's the only thing that's in your control.
Wow. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. What great advice you've just given. I definitely appreciate your time. Um, just thanks again. And I'm hoping that this gets out to more folks and we can see more people of color, Black women, Black men, passing the exam on the first try.
And we absolutely will. Absolutely.
Yes.
Thank you so
Thank
much for
you.
having me. It was
You're
my
welcome.
pleasure.
Thank you.